Hello, thanks for joining me today as we think about one simple word, and that word is kindness. That's something that we learned about when maybe even in kindergarten or before that, where we begin to remember that those who are around us reminded us to be kind to one another. But I'll tell you, we might have learned it early, but it was soon forgotten in many situations. Let's admit we don't live in a kind world, not always. And so Peter is letting us know that when we go through a trial, God's desire is that we become more like him, to be holy like he is holy. Now here's an amazing thing. Let's remind ourselves that God is kind. God causes the rain to fall on the just and on the unjust. The Bible tells us constantly God is full of loving kindness, not just towards those who love him, but he's kind to the whole world. When we think about this kindness, let's remind ourselves that when we come home and we've had a rough day, we don't have a license just because we're going through a tough time to be unkind to our spouses, our kids, the dogs, the animals, our neighbor, people at work. We don't have a license to be unkind because we have been bought to be like God. With the precious blood, we've been bought of Jesus Christ. So in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 1, he says, here's some descriptions of what can happen to us that remind us when we're not being kind. He says, first off, therefore put aside all malice. And malice is just that desire that ill will would fall on someone else. I'm not talking about physical harm coming to someone. I don't think that that's our main struggle. That might cross our mind once in a while. But we just hope that, hey, I don't like this person and I hope everything falls out from underneath their feet. He says, don't go there. Because then he says to avoid all guile. And that's when that corruption is not just in our thoughts, but then it just taints our whole attitude in our heart. It's like a corruption that can come inside. And then he says we can get involved in envy. In other words, that's when looking at someone else and we say, well, why aren't they going through this hard trial? Let's just remind us that kindness doesn't think that way. Kindness actually says, God, I'm willing to take this hit. Thank you that they're blessed because I love them. I love them intensely, like Peter asks us to do. Then he says, make sure that we don't get involved in hypocrisy or in slander. No fake Christianity. Make sure everything is is genuine. And then also let's make sure that we don't slander someone else, that we don't speak ill against them. So those are some good reminders. And then he says this, receive the word of God like newborn babes. In other words, trials in life can make you either jaded, can make you like an old crotchety man, or they can make you like a newborn babe. Everything's new, everything's fresh. You're just inclined to smile and to respond to others. So let's receive the word of God and let's remind ourselves, what does the word of God want us to be like? It wants us to be kind like God is kind. It wants us to be unjaded like an old person, but to be like a newborn babe, where our hearts are tender to those who are around us. That's my prayer for myself and for you today. God, please, I need it.